A young boy is raised among dogs and considers them his children. Even the world has abandoned him, but dogs never leave him. The movie opens up when a van speeds down the road on a rainy night, which gets the attention of cops. When the police pull the van over, they find a woman behind the wheel who looks hurt and strange. According to her, she forgot her driver's license in another dress. She doesn't want to go outside when she's asked, and there are dogs in the back of the van. A doctor named Evelyn wakes up when she gets a call. The woman has to leave her child with her mother because she has to go to work right away. Evelyn checks out the person who is being held at the police station. What they find is a van driver in a wheelchair smoking next to the window. On her back, you can see a new cut which looks like a woman. When the suspect turns around, it's clear that it's not a woman but a guy dressed up as a woman. Evelyn tells him that it's her job to figure out what to do with him. The prisoner says his name is Douglas. When asked if he has kids, he says he has hundreds, which probably means his dogs. This is how he shows his love for animals. Douglas starts to remember things from his childhood. He grew up in a normal redneck family that was very religious and raised dogs to fight. Dad was a real tyrant who liked to hurt people. His bigger brother was also very blunt and mean. Mom loved her youngest son, but she didn't even talk to her husband about it. Douglas, as a child, loved his dad's dogs and fed them even though his dad didn't want them to because he wanted them to be hungry and angry so they could fight. After hearing from his oldest son that Douglas breaks the rule, the father decides to use extreme teaching methods. Douglas' father loves dogs more than his own son, so he locks the boy in a box with them. Animals cover their new friend with their fur to keep him warm. Soon, Mom leaves the unfriendly house while she is pregnant. In a normal way, she wants to raise the new baby. Finally, she gives Douglas a few cans of food. Since Douglas lives in a box all the time, he didn't even try to escape during the winter. He wasn't going anywhere anyway. On the other hand, when Evelyn gets home in the morning, her mother tells her that her ex-husband, who was told by the court not to come near their house, is somewhere nearby asking to see his son. Besides, Douglas starts to think about the past again at the police station. He put a sign on the cage one day that said DogMan on the inside. A young boy named Juan comes to see Douglas not long before he is arrested. He brings a puppy that was found on the street. Juan needs help. El Verdugo, a gangster, is always picking on Marta, the owner of the local laundry. He not only takes her money but also makes her sell her own clothes. Douglas agrees to help him. He follows El Verdugo while dressed as a woman in a black funeral dress. The thief goes to the pub where his gang is hanging out. A small dog with a phone in its teeth runs in there when Douglas tells it to. The dog jumps on a table to get the phone to the boss of the gang. Because he is interested, El Verdugo picks up the phone. Douglas makes the criminal a deal he can't refuse while he is in charge of the bigger dog. The crook has to leave Martha alone, and Douglas has to let go of the mean dog in exchange. This must be okay with El Verdugo. When the first dog gets the phone back, it runs away. The second dog comes running after him. Everyone in the group is told to follow the dogs, but they can't be found. Apart from this, Evelyn calls her ex-husband on the phone to argue about the rule that says people can't come near the house. She then goes to Douglas's house, which looks like a war. There are bullet points all over the place. After getting his things, the woman goes back to the cell to find out more about the prisoner and make a decision. The first thing the doctor wants to know is how the man got locked up with dogs in a cage. Douglas's bigger brother saw him hiding the puppy one day and told their dad about it. The child growled at his dad when he went outside with a gun. He blocked his way into the cage. The dogs helped Douglas break out of the cage by biting on the bars with their teeth. That shot off a shotgun by mistake, and Douglas was hit and fell to the ground. The bigger brother brings the father inside and throws the younger brother a towel to put on his finger that was shot. Douglas has a plan while his dad prays and then leaves. He puts the finger that was shot in a bag and tells one of the dogs to take it to the police car that looks like the one on the magazine cover. The dog leaves the area through the hole he chewed and runs away. It takes the dog a long time to find the right car. When he does, he jumps on the hood and puts the package with the finger inside it. When the police see the bloody finger, they move right away. The police break into the house, arrest the father and the eldest son, and then call for help for the child who is locked up. On that day, Douglas could no longer walk properly. The bullet that killed his finger hit the wall and went through his back. To keep from hurting his spinal cord, doctors didn't take the chance of taking it out. Now, every step could loosen the bullet that was stuck and kill Douglas. In the end, his dad spent 20 years in jail. 2 weeks after being arrested, he killed himself. Also, his was given a 12-year sentence, but his brother got out early after 8 years for being good. He was observed outside the jail by one of the dogs, which then chased him down the street. Several other dogs joined the dog in the chase until they had the man surrounded. Douglas never told the therapist how his older brother died, and the dogs bit him. By law, Evelyn has to tell someone if she hears about a patient's murder. When Douglas got out of the cage with the dogs, he was put in a shelter where he couldn't make friends with anyone. People didn't want to play with a disabled person because kids aren't as nice as dogs. But the boy met Salma, the librarian, and fell in love with her right away. It was the girl who made him want to read Shakespeare and act in plays by the British classic in the theater group. He also learned from Salma how to change clothes and use makeup to become someone else. Douglas was happy and somewhat well liked at the theater shows. As soon as possible, Salma left the orphanage to go act on Broadway. Douglas made a scrapbook with newspaper clippings of her accomplishments. While he was an adult, he went to her show and then went backstage to talk. To his surprise, Salma knew who he was and was glad to meet Douglas. It was giving her a scrapbook with pictures from the actress's work page by page. The gift was really liked by the woman. After that, a man walks into the changing room. This person is in charge of the play, married to Salma, and will soon be the father of her child. Douglas says goodbye and goes to work at the dog rescue because this news makes him sad. Douglas lets out a fit of rage when he realizes that he will not be happy without his first love. He even gets up to show his disgust. The dogs inside the pens bark and howl with him. The dogs jump out of their cages and walk up to the boy who has fallen. They hug him and lick his face in a display of pure love, just like when he was a kid. Douglas cuts his hair short and acts like a real woman who has lost her love. But trouble doesn't come by itself. To save money, the government wants to close the dog shelter. Douglas tells people from the mayor's office that the shelter only gets money from the city for the building, and not for anything else. But that's where the trouble is. They want to make money by giving the page to a developer. The person has until Monday to leave. Over the weekend, Douglas puts all of his pets into an empty lab at the nearby college and reads Shakespeare to them very carefully. But it costs money to feed all those hungry dogs. He is looking for work and goes to as many jobs as his health will allow. He gets nice turns down everywhere, though. No one wants someone in a wheelchair. When Douglas walks into a cabaret one day, he sees a practice of singing travesty men and women's outfits. The guy offers to be a performer because he remembers the plays that were put on in the charity theater. The owner doesn't believe in the idea, but Douglas gets out of his wheelchair to show him that he's wrong. He can do it standing up, and his bad looks won't ruin the visitor's mood. The group of painted singers asks for the guy, and the boss finally gives in after being pushed. Soon, Douglas gets back to the locker room and gets ready for his first game. They help him stand up, roll his wheelchair to the middle of the stage, and support him so that when the curtain goes up, he can be seen in all his glory in front of the mic. Douglas sings a French song beautifully. Coworkers who admire him don't quickly understand. After the song is over, the owner has to close the curtain and roll up a wheelchair for the tired performer. To make sure the newcomer did well, he was added to the Friday program. Evelyn wants to know what he's been doing besides singing. Douglas says he has helped people with safety problems by finding them the right pet. He says the dogs loved him no matter what and understood him perfectly. They gave him the right items whenever he asked for them when he was cooking dinner. Douglas started to use the dogs for other things after he learned about this amazing gift. He used a hole in the house to teach the dogs how to steal jewelry from rich people's homes. The four-legged friends would get inside and look around for things they could eat. Insurance companies are interested in people who don't respect private property like this because they have to pay for the value of the stolen goods. Akrian, an insurance detective, is sent to one victim to find out. He talks to the homeowner and asks why the dogs haven't barked. Then he takes the hard drive with the surveillance tape and goes to watch it. Akrian plays back the videotape several times while sitting in front of the TVs until they see a dog flickering on it. The dog gets on the property without being seen, plays with the dogs that are watching the house, then goes inside and takes the valuable jewelry. Akrian asks to see the footage from the street cameras because he remembers a similar event. People who work hard for a long time are recognized. The dog they see is the same. Akrian finds a video of a stopped van with a dog running into it. The dog is being pushed by a person in a wheelchair. Once the investigator has the number plate number, he finds the criminal but is not in a hurry to hand him over to the cops. Instead, because he likes the man's ability, he goes to a club where Douglas is performing as a transgender person. Akrian goes into the singer's dressing room after the show to thank him and ask him to dinner. Douglas gently says no because he thinks the man is a pervert. The insurance guy tracks Douglas all the way to his house and then begins to work for Douglas. Douglas doesn't know this. Akrian doesn't know about the cameras that are set up near the house. Douglas tells his pets to get ready for the stranger who threatens his master with a gun and shows what kind of person he really is. Akrian wants to get rich, so he needs the stolen jewelry. Douglas tells him the code to the closet safe that has the stolen jewelry box inside. Akrian is about to leave after that, but the host invites him to stay for dinner. The investigator agrees, but he doesn't know that he is about to become the meal for a dozen dogs, who have been told to circle Akrian and attack the unwanted guest. There's more to the story. El Verdugo's goons broke into Douglas's hideout one Friday afternoon while he was getting ready for a show as Marilyn Monroe. They found Juan and tortured him to get him to turn in Martha's laundry driver. When the head of the gang gets there, he kills Juan while his followers spread out around the building. When Douglas hears a gunshot, he tells the dogs to go to war and gets a shotgun ready for himself. Unwanted guests are lured into traps set by the smart dogs. When someone steps into a puddle of water, they get shocked. Another is just getting attacked by the dogs. The next criminal steps into a pit trap with a lid. A dog forces another bad guy into the pit, and a third one falls into a rope trap. Douglas gets out of his wheelchair to help his pets, even though it hurts. It's accurate, so he shoots through the walls and into the pit to hit the bad guys. The leftover gangsters are able to hurt Douglas. As El Verdugo arms himself with a machine gun and keeps tearing down the walls, Douglas, who is hurt, crawls away. Douglas is being chased by the head of the bandits through the empty hallways. He finds Douglas sitting in a chair with sweat on his face. The performer starts to laugh out loud. The gun goes off, but El Verdugo doesn't have any more bullets. Douglas raises his glass to tell the dogs what to do, and they charge at the stranger. As time goes on, Douglas smokes in the back of a police car and tells the officer that the dogs are his children. He tells the dogs what to do with a nod, and they run out of the back of the truck. The story starts at the police office. Evelyn says she doesn't have any questions. The only one she has is why he told her. The prisoner answers that they are all hurting together. The doctor doesn't see the guard dog across the street when she leaves the station. The dog's howl brings the others together. Almost no women drive away. Douglas smokes and laughs. He then shaves and gets dressed in a business suit. The dogs then get into the station and scare the duty officer, which leads to fall and lose consciousness. They take the keys from the police officer, who isn't awake, and put them under the door to the master's cell. Douglas, in his wheelchair, rides out of the cell and into the hallway. He sees the church across the street rising just above it. He gets out of the wheelchair and walks slowly towards the church outside. The man stops under the cross and tells God that he loves him and is ready. After a short time, Douglas falls and takes his last breath. After getting stuck in the man's body, the bullet killed him by hitting an important organ. A lot of loving dogs are gathered around the body of their dead master, saying goodbye for good. Aside from this, while she feeds her baby, Evelyn looks out the window at this moment. A dog is lying in front of the house she sees. Douglas is trying to keep the woman safe from her angry ex-husband with this last message. If you like this movie, then don't forget to subscribe the channel.